Noye is a key member of the Night's Watch who didn't make it into the show. Before joining the Night's Watch, Donal was an armourer and blacksmith at Storm's End. It was him who forged Robert Baratheon's famous warhammer that dealt the killing blow to Rhaegar Targaryen during the Battle of the Trident. He took a wound during the battle, but it got infected, and as a result, he lost his arm. After this, Donal took the black and came to the Wall. Years later, during the events of A Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow arrives at Castle Black, Jon beats his fellow recruits during training despite the fact they were older than him, making him no friends. Donal talks to Jon and forces him to see the situation from a different point of view. He points out to Jon that he has advantages the others never had, that Jon, although a bastard, is a highborn bastard, one who grew up in a castle and trained with a master at arms his whole life, where most of the boys in the training yard had never even picked up a real sword. This makes Jon realise the rough circumstances the other boys around him grew up in. As a result, he starts to train the others himself, earning their respect and friendship. This also results in a friendship between Jon and Donal. Later, during A Game of Thrones, it is Donal who has to refit armour to fit Samwell Tarly so he can train. Jon also likes to assist Donal in the armoury, and he is with Donal when the news of his father's arrest reaches him. Later, during a Clash of Kings, Donal talks to Jon about his brother Robb being named King of the North. Jon is still coming to terms with this, but tells Donal he thinks Robb will make a good king. Donal then tells Jon it was him who had forged Robert Baratheon's warhammer, and that after Robert had become king, he was never the same, that Robert was made for fighting, and he rusted when he had to stop. When talking about Robert's brothers, he tells Jon that Stannis had always been pure iron, black and strong, but brittle, that he'll break before he bends. While Renly is like copper, bright and shiny, good to look at, but at the end of the day, not worth much. As Jon and a large amount of the Night's Watch prepare to march north of the Wall, they say their goodbyes. Donal tells Jon to bring his missing uncle Benjen Stark back. Jon promises they will. Later, during a storm of swords, Donal is one of the most senior members of the Night's Watch left at Castle Black. When Jon escapes the wildlings and runs back to Castle Black to warn of the coming attack, Donal is very worried that Jon has deserted the Watch. He ends up trusting Jon and brings him to Maester Aemon for treatment for his wounds. Despite only having one arm, Donal manages to carry Jon to Aemon and hold him down as the Maester pulls arrows from Jon. Jon is happy to see Donal and be back at the Wall. Donal is concerned about Jon's facial scar received during an attack by an eagle walked by the wildling Orell. Donal updates Jon on the events of Castle Black while he's been away. Maester Aemon tells Jon the terrible news of Lord Commander Mormont's death and the mutiny at Craster's Keep. Jon then explains to them about the wildling group south of the Wall, and he admits he broke his Night Watch vows with Ygritte, a wildling girl he'd fallen in love with. During the battle for Castle Black, Donal Noye takes command, being one of the most senior members of the Watch still at the Wall. Once Mance Rayder's army begins the attack on the Wall, he orders giants to attack the gate leading to Castle Black. Knowing the gate must not fall, Donal leaves Jon in command of the Wall and leaves to defend the gate. Donal holds the gate, but dies fighting the giants. Ultimately, Donal's role in the book is very minimal, with him mostly centering around being a friend to Jon and being a mentor figure to him. Perhaps the biggest impact he has in the story at large was just before his death and having the confidence in Jon Snow to give him command of the Wall during the battle against the wildlings. Not having Donal in the show does not affect the story too much, as most of his significant actions can easily be taken up by others, so it makes sense he would not make the cut when attempting to reduce the amount of characters. It seems parts of his role were given to 3 different people in the show, with Tyrion helping Jon when he first gets to the Wall, giving him the advice that humbles him and allows him to make friends and help his new brothers. Sir Alistair Thorne later takes Donal's role during the battle against the wildlings, taking command of the Night's Watch. Later, when Alistair is wounded, Jon then takes command. Gren then replaces Donal in the holding of the gate against the giants, and is killed doing so. The key difference here is Jon commands Gren to hold the gate, knowingly sending his friend to his death, providing more emotional weight to the scene, and is a great character growth moment for Jon. It would have been nice to see Donal in the show, and get the backstory and insight he had into Robert and his brothers, especially as Stannis plays such a key role in the books and eventually makes it to the Wall. But like Vargo, his absence does not detract from the show, or the story too much, and did provide some fantastic scenes that didn't happen in the books.